Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session Crushing COVID, Different Initiatives by Editorials with Relevant Content for the COVID Emergency in the frame of Conrecit Virtual Week. I'm Mary Gomez from Elsevier, and first of all, I would like to thank on behalf of Elsevier to the National Consortium of Scientific and Technological Information for inviting us to partnership with them at this important event for the scientific community in Mexico. Elsevier, as a leader in information and analytics for customers across the global research and health ecosystems, welcomes you to this one-hour session. Important to mention that we'll have some minutes at the end of the session for a Q&A, so please feel free to send your questions at any time during the presentation. It's an honor for me to present Alison Powell. Alison Powell is a Senior Vice President of Global Marketing for the Clinical Solutions Division of Elsevier across North America. She leads regional marketing teams to strategize and implement campaigns that consistently drive revenue and elevate awareness of Elsevier as a leading provider of information, analytics, and tools to improve healthcare outcomes. She spearheaded the setting up of a new digital data and analytics center of excellence within Elsevier. As part of her current responsibilities, she leads strategic differentiated value proposition efforts to create unique customer experiences through a thorough understanding of the customer's objectives, creates meaningful strategy, marketing, and game-changing news in order to augment the overall impact of new products and services. Alison's earlier position, based on Elsevier's London office, was Vice President of Marketing, where she managed a regional marketing team of more than 85 people to create an effective and efficient marketing team partnering with the business to drive a $430 million revenue, including a new digital data and analytics center of excellence. Prior to Elsevier, Alison had successfully led global teams at BP Castrol, AstraZeneca, and Kellogg's as a global head of digital marketing. At BP Castrol, she launched a digital marketing strategy that helped establish BP Castrol as a thought leader of lubricants. Alison graduated from Staffordshire University with a BA Honors in Business Studies. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I hope I can live up to it. So thank you for taking the time to spend this hour with us. I have about a 30-minute presentation. Now, I will try and talk slow to help the translator because I tend to talk very fast. So please do let me know if that happens. But I'm really honored to be here. I was really honored when Merit and Claudia asked me to speak at this event, because what I'm about to talk about is a real passion of mine. As Merit said, I've been in marketing actually in many different industries for more years than I care to announce on here. So my background isn't, I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I don't come from the medical community. So working within Elsevier has been a real honor to me to work with our customers and institutions all over the world and really learn about the important work that's being done. And so to that, I think, there's nothing more vital and important over the last, nearly 12 months than what's been going on around the world with COVID, with the pandemic. And so for the next 30 odd minutes, I'm going to talk about how Elsevier has responded to the pandemic, along with many other great organizations around the world. Now, for those of you who know Elsevier, you possibly know us as a science and medical publisher. But over the years, we've become much more than that. We have transitioned into a real technology company, leading in information analytics. And I think over the next few minutes, you'll see that. And in fact, we acquired a company last year in Ireland called Complete Anatomy. If you know anything about them, they are a really cool 3D organization that bring anatomy to life in very cool ways, a very technologically driven organization. And I was talking to the head of technology and I said, why Elsevier? Why did you choose Elsevier to partner with? Because they had a wide variety of organizations wishing to purchase them. And he said, because when we looked around what we perceived to be the publishing, medical, scientific industry, Elsevier was one of the leading lights within that from a technology perspective. And so I think when you hear that from a third party, rather than from yourself, it makes it much stronger. But for those of you who don't know Elsevier, I am just going to play a short video just to explain our heritage and what we do. Hopefully, bear with me.
Every day, professionals in health and science strive to make groundbreaking discoveries, make better decisions, and deliver better care. And we help them do it by empowering people with knowledge. But it isn't easy. there are always obstacles to overcome. In the 17th century, revolutionary scientist Galileo published a book explaining that the world orbited the sun. It was considered shocking at the time. In fact, the Vatican said it was the other way round, banned the book, and placed him under house arrest. However, the Elsevier family believed in Galileo, defied the Vatican ban, and published the first international edition of Galileo's most important work, marking a monumental step forward in humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Galileo changed the world, and the Elseviers helped him do it. That commitment to advancing knowledge is a real inspiration, and why we adopted the name when we formed the modern Elsevier in 1880. One of Elsevier's boldest risks as a company was publishing Jewish German scholars exiled by the Nazi regime. Scientific progress was being crushed by prejudice, and director Ted Cloutz believed history would judge him harshly if he didn't help these refugees get heard. Risking imprisonment or worse, Elsevier published English translations of their vital work. It was a brave, innovative decision and ensured that groundbreaking knowledge reached a global audience. Today, we still believe we must make brave decisions. That's why we pioneer cutting-edge technology to support the international science and medical community. The volume of research has grown exponentially since the 50s, and we have continuously improved the management of information and data. We were the world's first publisher to create and house a database, explored inventive new ways to deliver journals to scientists electronically, and before people had even heard of the World Wide Web, we created a revolutionary pilot to send articles via online connections. Each advancement was a bold step towards the launch of our first commercially available online platform. We are a global information and analytics company. #1 in global science, technology, and health publishing, working with almost every top US health system, as well as leading systems around the world. We are digital and lead the way in big data and information analytics expertise. In everything we do, we'll never stop striving to help expand the boundaries of understanding for the benefit of humanity.
So I hope that gives a bit of a background into who Elsevier is, the marketing pitch, if you like. So there we were, like everybody, back in 2019, which seems an awful long time ago now, going about our business, developing new products, working with our customers, working with both the scientific and the medical industry. And then in December, a virus hit. It started in China, but as we know, quickly, because of the way that we travel and the way that, it's so easy to go around the world, became a global pandemic. And so suddenly leaders all over the world were faced with this thing that we didn't really understand, how to deal with it and how we're going to keep all of our people safe. And so very quickly, Elsevier as an organization wanted to understand, okay, what can our response be? We want to respond to this. What can we possibly give? And of course, a lot. So the first thing we did in January is we made all relevant publications available for free to the world on our information center as quickly as possible. So that was gathering everything up in terms of our content. So getting rapid, reliable information that we had in all of our products that we could find to inform healthcare professionals and also the government and public bodies who were ringing on Elsevier's door and asking us to come and help them with their thoughts of how to address this pandemic. Things like, what are the mechanisms of infection? How do you prevent contagion? Unfortunately, of course, we've had pandemics around the world before, and Elsevier has collected all of that content and data, and so we have a lot of information to share. How do you best treat patients? And so, as I said, we put that up on the information center, which is in essence elsevier.com. So the site itself did and still does contain subject matter experts, insights coming internal and external, relevant journal articles, a lot of relevant journal articles, drug discovery resources, and of course, clinical information. The site itself has been accessed over 1.25 million times from all over the world. And it genuinely is all over the world. When you look at a heat map of where it is being accessed, it is kind of the US, Europe, Latin America, Asia. It's quite phenomenal. And we're continually updating that site as well. But the question we asked ourselves, firstly in the health division, where I sit, is, could we as a business do more? Could we support the health community even better? And the answer to that was yes. This site, this information center site, we'd put it up really quickly. We worked over the weekend as soon as the virus hit. A team of our content editors worked tirelessly over the weekend with our tech and product teams to put this up. So it was up and running on the Monday, which was great. And it was a lot of information. However, what it meant was that it was quite a huge pieces of information and quite hard to access quickly and find exactly what you needed. And so for the healthcare community and for those doctors and nurses who were and still are on the front line, we wanted to be able to offer them something up that was much easier to access the content that they needed. At the time, back in January, people were dying and there just wasn't much knowledge out there in terms of being able to access. And so this healthcare hub was conceived, and within 2 weeks from conception, it was up as a minimum viable product. You can see it's a mobile responsive site, which was really important to us. And most importantly, we built it with a real customer focused design first. So it has a really clear and simple architecture. As I said, I'll talk about it, but it's very, very much from a customer perspective, how we got the feedback that the customers wanted and needed to use this. It is up, we translated it into 3 global languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Again, all have been accessed widely across the world equally. And so, a bit about the site. First of all, it's important to say that in the past, and still relevantly so, Elsevier as an organization tends to look at things with a product lens, as most companies tend to do. So we would look at it from a clinical key lens, or maybe a science direct lens, a clinical path lens, that type of thing. What we realized here is that putting the customer first meant putting it, the topic, so COVID, the pandemic, infectious disease, at the center of it. And then we pulled the APIs, which is the application programming interfaces, from the products themselves. Now, maybe that sounds fairly easy and simplified thing to do, and possibly for some organizations it is. But for Elsevier, for those tech organizations like Amazon, etc. But for Elsevier, we had never pulled the API direct from our product into one central combined place before. And so that was revolutionary, because what it meant was we could pull all the relevant information from all of our products and make it meaningful in one place. And not only that, but it was kept up to date real time as we updated the actual products themselves. And so this Health Hub contains, all the information, the relevant information that we have at Elsevier on infectious disease, how to treat it, we turned it into really simple, easy to break down toolkits. Because what we recognized quickly was that medical professionals were coming out of university early, straight into this. We were seeing retired doctors and nurses coming out of retirement to support the institutions around the world. Doctors and nurses, their roles were almost blurring, and people were moving into sectors of a hospital that they may not have worked before. Indeed, a lot of our Elsevier staff, who are clinicians, were called up and asked to go back into service. And so what we wanted to do is make this really simple for everyone to use and actually access really quickly. And so the architecture that we built is what to know, what to do, and what to say. A very simple based architecture for all of those toolkits, providing the health professionals. So that was the core content, which is the content for the medical professionals in a mobile, responsive, easy to access point of care form. But that wasn't all. We've also put up relevant videos from leading experts, both internally and externally. We also highlighted to people who came to the site more than once, so we could track, had you come back as a repeat user? And what we did was, if you were coming back as a repeat user, we could highlight to you as an individual exactly what we had updated or had been refreshed. Again, something that we've not done on our web before, particularly for the kind of mass free access. And so hopefully save those doctors and nurses time when if there was a new piece of legislation or a new piece of content from around the world, they could find and access that quickly. We got feedback fairly early on from the users that this was great, but actually they didn't want to have to scour the rest of the internet, or they didn't have time to read news sites for the latest, what was going on. If you remember at the time, it was moving so fast and information was coming out so fast, and just trying to keep up with that. So we started a section called The Daily Rounds by Elsevier. Now, we pride ourselves on evidence-based content, and that is absolutely the truth. But we also recognized that we wanted to pull in content from trusted sources, but relevant content that we wanted to be able to give to the people accessing this site, so they didn't have to go scouring for it. That wasn't evidence-based, but we wanted to put it out there and put it in this site, so they only had to kind of come to one place. For example, in Italy, in the team of doctors in the ICU found out that for those sort of patients really who didn't have much kind of hope left, it was really coming to the end of what they were thinking that they could do from a treatment perspective early on. They found out that if they turned the patients from their back to their front, it was having actually good results. At the time, and I don't know if it is now, it wasn't evidence-based content, but it was content from Italy where they were really living it that we wanted to share. And so that was the kind of content that we did and still are putting up onto this site. And it also includes ability, as you can see there, to access relevant podcasts from leading experts. Our authors came on and are writing information on the site. And so this really is a one-stop shop and a different way for Elsevier to support its customers, but also its non-customers, everybody. So the site continues to grow, unfortunately, I guess, considering the pandemic in COVID is still very much with us. But we have over 20 relevant drug monographs on there, 9 clinical overviews, 100+ nursing skills, patient education, care plans, etc. And we continue to add, and we can, as we receive information and content from all over the world, we continue to keep this relevant, and we will do so for as long as it takes. As I said, the site is multilingual in purpose, and in the last few months, we've also added content on around mental health. So now we're starting to broaden the content out into related disease area states that we need to keep a watch out for. Obviously, mental health is very much at the forefront right now. A lot of people around the world are suffering, and we want to make sure that we add that relevant content up on here. We're also looking at vaccines and any effective treatment. So as we get information about vaccines, we will add it to the site as well. If you haven't had a chance to check out the Health Hub, I would really love for you to do that, because getting feedback from the potential users, getting insights and indeed ideas, or if any of you would like to contribute to the site, do let myself or Merrick know, or contact us, because it's a very much a living, breathing site as we all throughout the world live through the pandemic. So as I said, what the Health Hub had proven to us is that really looking at it from a topic as opposed to those individual product work streams was hugely beneficial to the people that we are serving, the healthcare professionals. And at the end of this talk, I would really like to get your ideas on moving forward, how Elsevier could address maybe other topics. So topics specific to Latin America, other topics specific to other areas of the world. We'd really like to understand where you think we can kind of bring all of our information together and which topics would be interesting for the healthcare and the research community. And talking of the research community, this is the other thing, of course, equally important to Elsevier. So while I was working in the health team, leading up the team for the Health Hub, the research team, together with the health team, were thinking the same thing, which is, we've got this information center up, but how do we really support the researchers now? They are going to be critical to the success of getting successfully out of this pandemic. We are relying on the research community to find us an answer around the world, and how we in Elsevier can support that better. I was on this team too, as a support from a health perspective, as you'll see in a minute. And this was really all hands on deck from the research community. And so I'll just click those on. We know that we have world-class tools around the world, and you can kind of see them here. And we know that researchers use them to run clinical trials, to text mine, for literature, for insights, to look up drug mechanisms. And what we really wanted to be able to do is offer these tools up free to the research community for COVID. So these 15 products are among the leaders in their specialities. I'm sure that some of you know all of them, or at least some of them. But here's the thing. They are not standalone. So they are mostly institutional facing products. And if you know these products, or at least one or two of them, you will know that they are wildly different in design and functionality. Most of these products, not all, but most, were meant to be accessed from behind a firewall, and certainly not freely available just from the normal website. There was no common access and no entitlement system for these products. Very different license models for these products. And most importantly, some of these products are quite small, and we hadn't expected to need them to scale up so quickly. So if you can imagine the platforms that some of these products are built on, and suddenly we wanted to be able to offer them to the entire world, the research community, for free, that was going to require a huge scale up. And, you know, internally, all of these products tend to be owned by different product owners within Elsevier. So just even a huge internal task, bringing the teams together. So we worked for 5 weeks to combine all these products into what is now the Coronavirus Research Hub for researchers. And it was an amazing amount of work, but if a researcher is now researching COVID, they can get access to, in essence, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products for free while they're researching COVID. It is supported on the Amazon Web Service, which they worked with us for that. And it was an intense 5 weeks. The core team, the tech team worked, weekends to get this up and to address all of those issues I talked about. How do we get one access? How do we get them onto one platform? How do we scale them up so quickly from a technology perspective? I guess you could say we were all in lockdown, so we had nothing else to focus on. And this was such a worthwhile mission that the team were very passionate to get this done. I actually read an article last week in a newspaper, digital newspaper, obviously, from another company who said that in the last sort of 3 to 6 months during COVID, they have had to innovate their technology, sort of combine what would have been a 3 to 5 year technology roadmap and get it out there in the last 3 months. And I can safely say that's exactly what Elsevier on the research side, and in some ways on the health side as well, have had to do. So fairly pressurized, but a huge opportunity. And so what we realized is something happened, that, you know, the researchers are asking for multiple products and utilizing these products and combining these products in the research of COVID. And so we interviewed them. And this was a big thing for us, because in the past, we, as I've said, have looked at these products almost as individual user products and treated them in that way as well. And suddenly we realized there is a lot of interaction that our customers are using these products for. And that was a sort of a aha moment for us, if you like. And so really, we see for us a new paradigm emerging in health research, a very interesting paradigm that we need to investigate more. But as I said, leading researchers are using multiple products, and they are looking at publications and information analytics. They're looking at clinical trial data with the statistics, and they're using real-world data with machine learning. Some are using large-scale medical record sets combined from many different sources, which is also very interesting to us. And some researchers are mining mobile phone data, news publications, and then combining that with these knowledgeable databases about the coronavirus infections. So just as Elsevier, I think, suddenly had to step up their technology and innovation very quickly in a condensed period of time, I believe this is exactly what the researchers have been doing and probably are continuing to do in other areas, which is really look at different ways of using the data and the knowledge databases that we can provide to look at a possible solution for COVID. And I think the healthcare community is absolutely doing the same. There is such a lot of synergy with the way that the healthcare community have been looking at different treatment options for COVID as well, and really stepping outside maybe areas that we would have kind of just been narrow focused, and really looking across the board as how to treat COVID, find a research answer for COVID, and hopefully, we all hope, cure COVID. So we set out to support the healthcare community and the research community. And as I said, we set out with those products, and we really wanted to offer those products up for free and the access. But actually, we have learned so much. It's all about serving the community, and nothing energized our internal team than this very focused mission and vision to serve both the health and the research community, and really think around these technology issues, and also try new technology, and I guess be prepared. So we were pleasantly surprised, actually, when we had this long list of, I guess, challenges. When we then went to our tech and product team, it turned out that the tech team had been, testing a lot of this already. They had been preparing for mass Zoom. They had been preparing for Cloudflare security across our products. They had been preparing for lots of emerging different systems. And we just needed to press the button. We needed the emphasis to want to kind of put the, resource into those things and go for it. So I think that we are very grateful to our technology team for absolutely being prepared for a situation like this. I don't need to tell this audience, but for us, it was a reminder, a constant reminder to be experimental, to experiment, to observe, and not just look for what we think, but really look at what people are doing, really understand how researchers are using this data, how could we provide better support, and be curious. And I think sometimes we can forget to be curious. We want to be, and I think once we are engaged in this mission, but sometimes it's very easy to kind of focus on the thing that you do and not sometimes look up. And I think this has been a good lesson to us to keep looking up and continuously look up about what's going on in the world. And it's allowed us to tap into different users, into different insight, and kind of opened a world up for us that we weren't focused in terms of this sort of multiple use. And it's allowed us to look at cross-product user behavior. And I think that is going to be huge for us and really change the way that we are going to look at our products and the way that we deliver things and working with our partners going forward. And so not only, hopefully, did we help the research community, but we also gained critical insight for our business going forward as well. And we're now developing all of this and bringing all of this in-house to see how can we best, serve the customer going forward. So that's all very well and good, isn't it? It's fine for me to sit here and say, we did all of this, and we did, and we have, but is it working? And that is the real key, right? So first of all, let's look at the stats, the numbers, the data. Worldwide, you can see that, we've had over, and this is continually growing, which I guess is, not necessarily good given where we're at, but it's good that we are supporting the community. So we've had over 1.6 million visits to the information across the board. And we are supporting not just our customers, but as I said, those government bodies as well, and informing the government bodies of how to kind of really put plans together to support the coronavirus mission. 1,600 researchers across the world have reached out to us and applied for, access to the tools that I have just shown you. And you can see, on Science Direct, phenomenally, 150 million downloads of relevant journals and articles from our Science Direct. And I think just this is interesting for Latin America specifically. Again, over 250,000 visits, 50,000 downloads of content. And this number to me is really interesting. 5,000 researchers coming to us from Latin America saying, yes, we are looking into active research of COVID, and we would like access to some of those relevant tools. And some of them, as I said, are accessing 2 or 3 tools at a time, which is great. And this is where we're getting that interconnection. So, the stats are great, but I think the real impact comes in the form of true feedback. And we've had an overwhelming response for feedback from both the healthcare community and the research community. And I apologize, it's probably too small to read, I'm not sure, but I will just tell you what this says. So this is from a doctor who works in an institution across the Gran Canaries in Spain. And in this letter, he goes on to state that the information that we have provided in all of these formats is vital evidence-based and trusted content that he has been using and his colleagues have been using right across the institution. And then he goes on to give a specific example of a nurse who was working in the ICU ward. And in her downtime, she was reading one of those toolkits. So one of those Health Hub toolkits that I talked about, very easy access on your mobile phone. And she found some information that she passed on, and basically it saved the patient's life. Now, we have lots of feedback around this, but quite honestly, that one life saved is worth everything that we have done. It's worth all the time and all the thought that we have done as a team and putting into both the health hubs and the research community. And so for me, the stats are great. And of course, I want to know that people are accessing and finding use and downloading the content. But this here is the real reason, and what I've talked about in terms of that energizing mission that brought the Elsevier team together. And that really is about, saving lives. And of course, what I really hope is that all these wonderful researchers across the world studying COVID, both treatment and vaccines, and utilizing the Elsevier products will get equally, an enormous benefit from it as well. And actually, I'll share with you later in maybe the Q&A, but hot off the press, we've just done a survey with those researchers, which is quite interesting. So our promise to the community, both communities, research and health communities, is we will continue to support during the pandemic, both the health community with the Health Hub and all of the information as we find it out and as it comes to us. And in terms of the research community, I am pleased to say that literally this morning, the organization signed off access, extending the access to those tools for research, because we realize, unfortunately, COVID is very much not over. And so therefore, we will continue to support the industry as long as it needs. And so with that, what next? And I think, this, I guess, is going to be a question to you and to the rest of the research and health communities around the world, which is how can Elsevier not just support this initiative, but the learning that we have found from this initiative? How can we go on and support the communities going forward? So this is a real snapshot. No one else has seen this. You are literally the first to see this, hot off the press, which is the topics that we would like to look at going forward this year. So as head of marketing, what I would like to be able to do is continue to work with my content, product, technology colleagues around the world and start building more of these topic health hubs, because they have proven to be so very useful. You can see the list there that we're thinking of, which is, obesity, diabetes, mental health. And we actually included the flu on there as well. And the reason we ended up short term with that list is because we realized that those comorbidities are very closely linked to COVID. And we think we can make, a lot of content available for not just these topics themselves, but what that linkage is to COVID. So we have coming out now a lot of research on mental health linked to COVID, obesity linked to COVID, and how the flu and COVID interact together. So we're getting a lot of thought leadership content and a lot of our authors as well. But, this is our short list, and we have lots of ideas for next year. But what I'd really like is, a dialogue to understand where you think from both either a health or a research community, how we can support more, and what are those real topics that we should take going forward. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to Merit to see if there are any questions. And I also have some data I'd like to share with you as well at some point on the latest from the Research Hub.
Thank you so much, Elsa. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. Now, Alison will send to us here after the presentation. So the first one is there are a lot of hubs out there by different organizations with different resources. What makes Elsevier's hub different from all the others?
I think that's a really good question. So, of course, lots of institutions and worthy institutions have put out information on COVID. And everywhere around the world, right? News sites, the BBC in the UK, and a lot of course, what would classically be our competition. And that's great. From an Elsevier perspective, we wanted to ensure that all of our content in our products was released and that it was available to all. And our main driver was not just doing that, but then keeping that constant up. As I said, our promise is to continually keep that updated. So not just about releasing the data from the product, but really driving meaningful insight, getting our content people and our authors to constantly bring new information to that site and keep on top of it. So I hope that others are absolutely going to do the same and be with it through the duration of the pandemic. But I can tell you that Elsevier definitely will be. And I think for the research hub, I mean, that is unique. No one else can offer access to those 15 products because they are Elsevier products. And that's what we wanted to do. And that's definitely a unique thing from Elsevier perspective.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So our next question is, do you have any data or value story about the impact of the research hub?
Yes. I mean, the research hub is amazing. I'm just so not only continually impressed by my colleagues to get it out, but also the research community and how they're utilizing it. And if you forgive me, because I've printed out, as I said, it was just, this is a great question because I can now talk about this, which is we actually surveyed, and it came in on Monday, the researchers who have been given access to this site, to the ability. And so we surveyed the people, and 90% of the researchers who have taken now access are either satisfied or extremely satisfied with the tools, which is fantastic. On average, each researcher is requesting access to sort of 2.5, 3 products, which is really fascinating, as I said to us. And then what we're going to do at the next stage is speak to them about how are they utilizing those 3 products, how are they working together. And I think the real key is in a couple of feedback, if you just read this feedback for you, which is from one researcher has said, the products have been so valuable. I have discovered a gap in my area of research following the research hub. And that has given me an inspiration on the variables to adopt while going further into my research. And that's what it's about. I mean, a lot of these tools can support with data mining. A lot of the tools obviously have access to the journals and any kind of thing that we can link together. And then there's another one here saying that they've mainly used the databases for up-to-date information for not just the science industry, so they got access to Science Direct, but also for clinical guidance, so they actually accessed Clinical Key as well. And Science Direct and Clinical Key don't tend to be 2 products necessarily used together. So it's really exciting to see that happen. And the information found, they've now shared with their colleagues, and they've already started putting into place some of the practices and research that they found on those sites. So some really early, interesting and exciting stuff going on.
Perfect. We have one more question. How long will these hubs be available?
As long as the pandemic continues, sadly, I guess. So we didn't think it would. We thought maybe not that long, but the healthcare hub will be up as long as the pandemic continues, and actually longer. So what we want to do is, I've been working with the team to look at new topics that we can add into the COVID hub. So as I said, what we're going to do is keep the COVID hub relevant, updated with obviously the mental health and etc. But also we're going to re-evaluate it, and as early as the end of this month, start adding in new content around obesity and diabetes and the comorbidities that work with health. So we're going to keep the hubs up indefinitely, really, for as long as they're needed and useful, and as long as we can keep feeding them with relevant content. The research hub up, we've just got the sign off to allow free access to those tools until January the 31st. But to be honest, you know, as an organization, if there is a need there from a pandemic perspective, I'm sure that Elsevier will continually, you know, look at that date and see where we're at across the world in terms of COVID. So yes, they're both up and running. So please go take a look at them. And if any of you are, you know, on this call, either yourselves or you know a colleague that's researching into COVID and would find access to one of those tools or 2 or however many useful, then it's a very easy thing to go onto the site and request access.
Okay, next question is, where can we see the hubs that Elsevier has?
Yeah, so if I can, I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I'm going to stop sharing that, but maybe I can share this. Bear with me. It may or may not work.
If not, we can send them to them through the chat.
Yeah, I was going to share them with you, but yeah, send them in chat. It's really easy. If you go into the search engine, so say Google, and type in Elsevier Research Hub and Elsevier Health Hub, they should come up #1 on the search engine. They did for me. But I can send the links out as well. And if you go onto the Elsevier.com site and go into the coronavirus information center, you'll see the links in there as well, and they should be fairly prominent. Yes, thank you. You found them super easy.
Okay, so our next question is, are there any important advances about the vaccine that are documented in the hub?
That's a really good question. So I have been talking to our internal clinicians about getting together the data, two things. First of all, everything that's going on in the world that's relevant on the vaccine. So we were literally talking about that. I need to check whether that's gone up yet or whether it's something that's going up next week. But we are going to put a section up on there, if we've not already, about the vaccines. So what we're trying to do is defunk the myth, because there's a lot of talk about the vaccines in the press and on TV. Some of it is real and some of it is not real. So one of our internal clinicians has made a very nice piece about what's going on in the world, what vaccine and what stage, what are the advantages and disadvantages right now. So, in short, the answer is yes, we're going to do a whole section on the vaccines, and any insights that we gather, we're going to put that onto the hub as well. That'll be the healthcare hub itself.
Perfect. I will just wait a couple seconds to see if we have any new questions coming.
I will. We have a daily stand-up with the content and the product team and the authors about the latest content, what's been happening, what do we think we should put up on the site, and as we get into understanding more about the vaccines, it's definitely something I'm really interested in. And my mum keeps asking me every day. She's like, "How close are we to getting a vaccine, Alison? When can I come out of my house?" So it's definitely something that's top of mind for all of us.
Completely agree. Okay, it seems to be all the questions. Thank you again, Alison, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us. So this concludes the webinar. Thank you all on behalf of Consortium and Elsevier for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. Have a good evening.
Thank you.